Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Contractually Speaking. I have my good friend and the executive director of CLOC. Welcome, Oyango. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, man. I'm so glad to be here. I've heard so much about this podcast, and I can't wait to get in it.
So have I. Let's see what it's all about. I got to host a podcast. You know, when I went to school and my dad asked, what do you want to be? I never said I want to be a podcaster, but hey, when you start a company and as a startup founder, I've learned so many things at this organization. And now I can say I have also done podcasts on my resume.
Absolutely. You could add that to the LinkedIn profile, brother.
Exactly. That's right. A skill I'm learning. But thanks for joining us. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, great to be here again. I'm Oyango Snell. I serve as the executive director of CLOC. I came aboard on CLOC, a little over a year ago. So time flies when you're having fun. I'm a lawyer by trade. I spent over 20 years in the legal profession as a lobbyist, as a government affairs professional, as a lawyer, as in-house counsel, as outside counsel, as law firm counsel, solo practitioner. I even tried my hand at entrepreneurship, Matt. I tell you, it's not for the faint at heart. I'm preaching to the choir, right?
It's not easy. I can agree with that.
I've even been a law professor, which I'm pretty proud of. I love giving back and helping to shape the legal minds of the next generation. So I've been all over the legal field and now find myself in the legal ops space, which first came to me when I was a general counsel for an oil association on the West Coast, which kind of opened my eyes to the legal operations field and space. Only to fast forward and do some other things and running our state bar in the state of California, our voluntary bar association, and then having an opportunity to join CLOC. So that's kind of been my path, so to speak, not necessarily job for job, but just my experience and the different things that I've had an opportunity to partake in that brought me to CLOC.
So I can imagine your resume is probably about 7 or 8 pages long.
It's too many pages. I remember in law school, they teach you that your resume has to be 1 page, and I didn't go straight from undergrad to law school, or maybe it was 2 pages. I don't remember. It was 1 or 2. Either way it goes, it was not enough space. I had worked for a few years and went and got an MBA, and I had some history behind me. I wasn't a traditional, 21, 22-year-old in law school. So when I went to career services and they told me my resume needed to be like 1 or 2 pages, I guess they were thinking about the individual who had no experience to tout. And I just thought that was a crime for me not to talk about the wonderful things that I had done. But that's the difference between a legal resume and all the other stuff that I had done.
Indeed. So on today's podcast, let's talk about CLOC and events and what I have seen evolve over the last decade and get your perspective on it. From my side, I remember the early days of CLOC. I remember when we started Malbek, that first or second year, I went alone to check out what is this thing called CLOC.
Yeah.
And I've heard from my friends in the legal community, partners, and even now some of our customers who originally hosted or participated in the first organizational meetings of CLOC. And I think that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And from that, it's become this thing of, huge global community of legal operations professionals, senior to very new, all over the maturity levels. And the events, other than just the annual CGI event, there's also community events, local city tours. So it has grown a lot.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of effort to build out a community and keep it growing. And the highlight of that community, from my side at least, because I attend it every year for the last 7-8 years, is the Global Institute. For the first time this year is going to move to Chicago. Looking forward to that in 2026. So when I'm attending with my team, and we're a vendor, so we sponsor, we have a booth and all that. I'm always trying to figure out the attendees, the legal operations practitioners, when they get budget approvals and approval from their management to say, okay, go spend 3-4 days, spend all the money and learn. What is their expectations? And how can we better meet that expectation? As CLOC, as a vendor too, because sometimes I see fright, they're afraid of coming into the exhibit hall as if the vendors are going to lure them in and hold them hostage. Yeah, no, you pay a bit more and take my swag and talk to me, even if you don't need our product or service, right? So I'm going to pause and tell me your thoughts about everything I just said.
I don't think they feel like they're going to get that that poisonous bite, right? Like there's just a bunch of Draculas, trying to suck their blood or something. You know, throughout my experience in talking with our members and individuals within the legal ecosystem, I've heard different perspectives from all different sides of the coin, so to speak, right? I don't want to say it's two different sides because I don't view it as practitioners versus vendors. We have buyers, we have sellers, we have an interconnected rather community. And if we really think about the broader construct of legal ops in and of itself, no particular group solves business problems on its own. Legal ops practitioners can't solve business problems without legal tech providers. Legal tech providers don't have any customers to sell to if legal ops practitioners aren't checking for them or thinking about the tools that are needed to help solve the day-to-day business problems. I think what has happened, at least over the past few years, as I've had a chance to talk with folks and kind of gauge their thought process, is a number of things. One, you've had sort of that rotten apple sort of construct, right? So think of the rotten apple, right? That spoils the whole bunch.
Yeah.
You have some on one side, you have some vendors that may be a little bit aggressive in their sales tactics, and that may have turned some folks off. You have some that are not as knowledgeable about their products when they're trying to solicit and service, right? And that does the industry a disservice for experienced folks like Malbek and others who know their products, who know what they're trying, with the business problems that they're trying to solve, and are more partners with their clients rather than salespeople. So you have some of those antics that I've heard have kind of turned legal ops practitioners off. But then on the other side, I think some of the legal ops practitioners don't know what they don't know, and that's sort of a little bit of fear. So in answering the question directly, what's expected from, when legal ops practitioners get the budget to go spend time at a conference, they get approval, what's expected to come back is thought leadership as to particular tools or resources or opportunities for partnership that their company or that their legal department can think about entering into some conversations with, and possibly end up buying tools to help them be more efficient, more effective in their operation. I mean, if I'm running a business or running a department, that's one of the things that I'm looking at. If I'm sending my team member out to grab intel and to get information, build relationships, network, I'm expecting them to come back with some sort of report of what are some of the trending things that you saw, what's some of the tools that are out there that we should be thinking about, even if we're not buying this year. Maybe we're thinking about buying something next year or in 2 or 3 years down the road. But what are some of the trends that we're seeing? What are some of the things that are out there that we should be looking at and taking into consideration?
And as I watch attendees pass through the exhibit area, my recommendation or request would be honest.
Yeah.
You could literally walk up to any vendor exhibit booth, say, hey, I don't know anything about what you do. I don't need your product or service, but you have great swag and I need it for my kid. Take it. I will respect that. And I'll say, and we'll be friends, right? Hey, take the swag. I hope your family, your child, your pet, whatever the swag is, love it and enjoy it. No forcing a discussion, because we don't want to, as a vendor, I don't want to put your name and info in our database to then spam you with emails for something that you don't need or have any interest in, right? There's no need for me to clutter our customer database with contacting for people that are just not prospects for us.
Yeah. I love that approach because, I'm a conference goer. I go to plenty of conferences myself for my own professional development, and I get, the hundreds of emails, the pre-calls leading up to the conference. And I have a methodical way of approaching conferences that, I hope others, whether you're going to CGI or other conferences, if this fits you, take it. If not, throw it in the trash. But I examine what vendors are going to be on the floor. I examine what my team needs are, what our organizational needs are, what we're thinking about, what we're doing. And I may take some demos before the meeting, before the conference, so that I can kind of get an idea of what I'm looking for, what I'm thinking. I may take 2 or 3 calls or webinars or video meetings, and then I kind of can hit the floor with a little bit more intention. I don't have to waste people. I don't have to waste the vendor's time. There may be one of you that I say, hey, you got some nice swag. My 10-year-old, my 8-year-old would definitely have fun with that. Yeah. Can I get that? And it might be something that I'm not totally interested in. So it's definitely been some of those instances. But like you said, you want the participants to be honest. You don't have to sit there and act like you want to talk to me just to get the swag. Get the swag and go ahead and move on. But I'm intentional and I'm methodical in that way. And I think some of our folks at CGI or that participate in some of our other conferences are just as intentional as well. So I don't think there's one shift or another. I think there are some opportunities for us to communicate, to be better, sales, to be better stewards of the profession on the legal ops practitioner side, because technically we're all in this together. We're all trying to solve business problems. And I'll say this tidbit. I think it was Pitch Deck or it was Pitch Book that had a recent study out that showed that legal tech investments, capital investments, have nearly doubled from last year's spending to this year, to 2025. So if we're seeing that type of trend and growth in the spend on legal tech, you best believe that there's more and more opportunities coming down the pipeline for different types of tools, different types of resources, vis-a-vis AI. I don't know how many minutes we're in, and that's the first time we've mentioned AI. But
absolutely true.
But all of those types of tools as well, as far as legal tech and capital investments are concerned. So we have no choice but to be partners in this ecosystem and really work together to understand what are the things that are out there that we can use to help move and drive the business forward.
Indeed. And then, there's the learning aspect of it, right? So prep work, I think you made a great point. Before you go to the event, you already know who the sponsors are, who are the exhibitors, where they're located. I think we all look at that. But then go one step further. If you have a need for a particular product or service and those vendors are there, ping them saying, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Maybe even set up an appointment. Maybe get a preview demo, because maybe the 10 vendors you thought have the product or service you need, only 7 of them actually meet your requirements, and the others. So now you can shortlist before you even go there. So that's a great point. Do your homework before you get there. Secondly, when you're there, if you categorize the different levels of interest in the exhibit hall and vendors, if I'm a legal ops practitioner, first is I need a product or service. So I'm absolutely going to go visit those vendors and talk to them, get a demo, take the information for follow-up later. That's an easy one, right? We all do that. Second is I already have a product or service. I'm okay. But you don't know what's going to happen in 2-3 years. Technology is evolving. So you might want to see what's new in that space and meet the vendors to just learn about what's the latest. So while and I'm a CLM vendor, so I'll talk about CLM. You might have a CLM. You might have a contracting system of some sort, and it's working for you now. But if you're growing at 50, 100% a year over year, you don't know, right? In 2 years, your needs might change and your current solution may not be enough. Are you going to scramble at that point and start to investigate, or do you want to start learning each year as you go to these events? So start to talk to the vendor and be honest, saying, hey, I don't need something immediate, so don't call me next week, right, to try to sell me this quarter. It's just some learning about what's out there, so I can go back and keep that on my list in the future if needed. And the third category is learning for yourself or for your peers and colleagues, because you're going to go back and maybe in a year you're not at the same company and a new company you go to needs a product. Well, wouldn't it help if you learn about this at CGI, at the event that you attended? Or let's say you have a friend, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ solution. Do you know anybody? Hey, I went to CGI and I saw these 4 awesome products. Why don't you take a look at it?
Yeah, awesome.
So you become a trusted advisor.
And that's what our profession is about. I mean, our entire community at CLOC is about sharing best practices, sharing resources. That's really the commodity of being able to connect with your peers and talk about products and services or methods or strategic methodologies in order to achieve efficiencies and overall effectiveness to move the enterprise forward. And having that knowledge, having that understanding of what's out there, what's trending, what's not working, what's not trending is even more important than what is. To be able to have those communications and share them with folks is very powerful. You mentioned something that really got my juices flowing. As far just thinking about the career trajectory, there's been so many people who have been legal ops professionals that are now on the vendor side. And vice versa. There have been vendors that have come over to the practice and are now legal ops professionals.
That's right.
When you're thinking about that individual growth and really playing a significant strategic partnership role for the enterprise that you work for, having that wherewithal of what's trending and what's out there definitely can come in handy. Man, I'll say this. When you think about it, I'd like to get your take on how do you handle the individual that you know doesn't have the buying power authority in that conversation, right? Because I have heard that in that instance, sometimes they're dismissed from salespeople and from vendors. If they don't have the buying power authority, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to get your badge so I can get my little point and add that to it. How are you all taking that opportunity, or people that you know on the vendor side, how are you taking that opportunity to educate those people so that they can go and be stewards to their higher ups, so they can talk about the products and services that you have, knowing that they don't have the buying authority? And sometimes because that makes them feel uncomfortable, right? I don't have the buying authority, so I don't want to stop. I don't want to talk to this guy too long because I know I can't make a decision and they're going to be pressuring me. So how do you help kind of alleviate that situation to where that person can still feel like they can get some value out of it, even though they are not the person that can make the decision, but they can go back and talk about what they've seen and talk about what they heard, and sell it. Or I don't want to say sell it, but talk about it to their higher ups in order to make a decision.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I'll give you my personal opinion on it. I want to make that person the hero when they go back. So personally, I feel there's nobody that is not worthy of a conversation. Doesn't matter what your title is, where you are in the organization. We're at a community event, and I want to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
And it's funny how the first day when we're all setting up, I'll even go, whether it's a competitor or some other booth, I'll go over and if they're constructing something, we'll get together and start building it. It's and you never know what you learn from that person that is in the booth next to you. But the person that is stopping by, first help them remove that fear that, oh my God, can I even talk to you? Because you might think I'm not the decision maker or the buying authority. So you might feel your time is wasted on me. But it's not, because for me to get to your decision maker, you're here in front of me. Why would I complain? And now the goal is, instead of saying, look how great our product is and how it's going to help you, I have to change the dialogue and say, okay, when you go back to your office, back to your company, the next meeting you have with that stakeholder, ask them and give them the qualification questions. Empower them to have that conversation with that buying authority or the stakeholder, saying, hey, Mr. or Mrs. XYZ, I met with these 4 vendors in this space where we're looking at a product or service, but here are the things that we need to understand from you. The pain points, technologies requirements, any IT mandates, global versus local, multi-divisional, whatever the integrations, what are the systems all the qualification questions that I need that person to ask the stakeholders so that they can go back and have that educated discussion and become the hero, right? Because that's the only way we're going to get to that, the buying authority of that organization.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add one more thing, because this happens often. Every product, if you look at CGI's, all the sponsors, whether it's matter management, e-billing, CLM, intake, there's going to be categories of providers: large enterprise, big companies, mid-size to smaller company solutions, high price, cheap price, all ranges. So if somebody stops by the Malbek booth, and even though if they need a CLM, great, but if it's not a fit, the goal is not to say, oh, we can't help you. You don't have enough budget to afford me, or we're not the right solution. Please go away. It's more of a, okay, we're not the right fit, but I know two other vendors that sell into your space.
Yeah.
And let me introduce you, right? And be friendly with your competitors because, again, help each other out, right? Why would I just say goodbye instead of sending them to that other competitor where maybe they can do business together?
Yeah. And look, I under my leadership over this past year and hopefully years, many, many more years to come, that type of community and sentiment and education and sharing resources is what I'm all about. My vision for bringing in not only legal ops professionals, but representatives from law firms, general counsels, in-house counsels, legal ops professionals, vendors, tech consultants, all under one roof at the CLOC Global Institute so that we can grow together, spark new ideas, accelerate innovation, and really strengthen a shared pathway to where we're headed. No one knows really where we're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. If you go back pre-COVID, and just think about how far legal ops has come just from then, not 10 years ago when CLOC was founded, around the time when you started coming around and going to the CLOC Global Institute, but thinking about where we're going to be 10 years from now, and how are we creating the foundation and setting ourselves up for success in order to get there together. Of course, it's going to be competitive. Of course, everyone has competitors. Everybody's trying to get a piece of their market share with their niche product or their niche services. Us as an association and as an event carrier, there's plenty of events out there. There are plenty of things to do. Just because we're the biggest, does that mean that we're the best? I'd like to think so. But I'm pretty sure others feel that, that they may have a niche or want to go somewhere else or get some learning from another group or another organization. And that's great because I think there's enough space for all of us. But if we still hold true to that sentiment that you just talked about of being kind and friendly and respectful to your competitors and sharing resources, educating people, treating people like humans, not numbers, not a badge, but like people. I think that's where we'll continue to grow and get better and get better and get better and really come together as a community.
Absolutely. I'll ask one final question for your thoughts before we wrap here, which is content.
Yes.
I've seen people either getting tired or get confused, and then they just hide in a corner doing their work because they don't know where to go, especially if only one or two people from their company are attending and there's 6 sessions going on, which one to attend. Yeah. So there is that overwhelming feeling, right, at these large events. So tell me your thoughts on how to make them more comfortable and how do we align content jointly, right, as a vendor, as a practitioner, and as you as a host, to make sure that they go home with some new learnings from the last year that they attended.
Yeah. Keep me disciplined because that's the old judge trick of asking the multi-tiered question of 3 questions in 1 question. So keep me disciplined and make sure I address all of them. Okay. So first, CLOC has grown significantly over the last 10 years, and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary this year. And it has become a big institution. What I think we're doing more now to help that participant, that person that sees so much content, and there are several kind of feelings happening, I think, in talking with people. One is overwhelmed with so much content and that overwhelming feeling, not knowing where to go and what to do, right? So that overwhelming feeling can sometimes put them in a place of being paralyzed to, what session should I go to? And I think second is the person that's, wants to know everything and they just want to ping pong and go to everything they possibly can. They just burn themselves out after day 1. And day 2 and 3 looks like, I don't even know where I'm at, what I'm doing, what day it is, right?
The final day.
Exactly. So you have that. And then you have everything in between that, right? So you have the the person who is, and we're not talking about extroverts, introverts. We're just talking about people who see a lot of content and don't know where to go, versus the person that wants to go to every event, every session, every opportunity they can, but just can't because it's not realistic. Some of the things that we've tried to do at CLOC and with CGI is streamline this a little bit better from an educational perspective, so that those individuals, based off the levels that they are at in their career, in their experience, that they can choose that track and trying to make that more identifiable for them. We tried it out last year. We tried some new trinkets and bring some new value adds to this type of conference, so those people don't get lost in the sauce, so to speak, and they kind of have that track. We're going to do a much better job at that this year in Chicago, and the facility kind of lays itself out to be more productive in that manner. So I'm excited about what the team is working on as far as those tracks are concerned. We're also trying to limit the number of sessions that we have so that we can have a full conference, right? We have too many things going on at the same time, because we're trying to do something for everybody, right? And I think that we can still do something for everybody because we have a very diverse, eclectic stakeholder group that we are putting this conference on for. But it shouldn't be done at the detriment to other programming and things like that. So we're being mindful of that and trying to do the best job that we possibly can, not to stumble on top of each other and trying to have more content just for the sake of having more content, but having the right content that feeds and actually supplements the thought leadership that we really need to advance the legal operations industry. So those are just two kind of focal points of what we're looking at from the participants' view of content. One, that it's engaging, that it's substantive, that it's relevant and timely. When you think about those four things, right? Engaging, substantive, relevant, and timing means it's engaging. I get a chance to participate and really grasp onto some concepts and maybe take one or two nuggets back to the office, ready to dive into with the team. It's substantive, that it gives me something of meaning that I can actually implement and do something with, and that kind of plays into the relevance and timeliness, that it's something that we can do right now, or at least put into our strategy, our strategic planning going forward. The second part of that question, in how vendors like yourself and CLOC and even others can partner, particularly as it relates to content, is to really leverage your experience, not only from the entrepreneurial side of things, but from the innovation side. You guys are creating the products and services that our members and stakeholders need in order to be successful in their daily jobs. Rather it's AI focused points or other tech related issues, there are opportunities for all of us to learn and get engaged. So I would say to continue doubling down on being a strategic partner and thought partner with the community in order to help advance the substance, the relevance, and the engagement of content, to where we're growing together and not necessarily thinking that everything has to be a transactional sale or buy. And I think if we're able to do that, learn together, share information, think about trends, it's not about the sale. The sale will happen because you learn more about each other and they learn more about what they need. The sale will be a byproduct of building the relationship. There we go, the R word. In a nutshell, I could have just said, build a relationship, Matt. You build a relationship with a person, the products and they sell themselves.
Yes, exactly. One of my early managers in my career told me, Matt, people buy from people. Software is just a part of it, but humans, they buy from people, right? It's not about, it could be the best software in the world, but if you suck as a salesperson or really rude, obnoxious, nobody's buying that thing from you, right? So we have to be human about it.
Yeah.
But amazing insights. I know you and I can probably talk for a day.
Yeah.
But I want to save the audience from going, starting to fall asleep if they listen to this too much. So we'll here maybe to talk on a different topic another time.
Yeah.
But thank you, Oyango. I appreciate your time and insights. I look forward to the CGI in Chicago this.
I appreciate it. Yeah. May 11th through 14th, Chicago, 2026. Here we come.
Looking for Chicago deep dish pizza. We've got to have some, right?
You got to have some deep dish pizza. Get at me for recommendations.
Inshallah, we shall make something happen. Thank you, everyone, for joining Contractually Speaking, our Malbek podcast. And until next time, cheers.